Hey there, Cinemaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The series begins in a military research camp. There was a woman with the rank of lieutenant whose job was to conduct daily inspections of the satellites. One day, she notices strange waves coming toward Earth from the sun. These waves were destroying any satellite in their path. She couldn't believe her eyes and thought it was a computer glitch. She immediately reported it to the captain she was working with, but he asked her to ignore whatever she was seeing. However, during those 24 hours, the lieutenant felt fearful and believed this was something that couldn't be ignored. Then we are introduced to a man named Armin, who was a submarine scientist and engineer, living a simple life on a Turkish beach. One day, he leaves his house and finds his ex-girlfriend Victoria, a marine biologist. We learn that she is planning a deep-sea diving expedition near an airbase in Turkey. She assembles a team of 5 people and secures funding for the trip. She needed a diver and team leader, so she thought of Armin. However, when Armin found out that his father, a millionaire, was funding the trip, he immediately refused because he hated his father. But after some contemplation, he decided to join the team to spite his father. Armin goes to inform Victoria. When he knocks on her door, a strange man answers. Armin thinks he has the wrong house, but then he sees Victoria inside with the man. We learn that this man is Victoria's fiancé, Freddie, who will also be joining the expedition as the head of the technology department. Armin feels suffocated and thinks working with Freddie will be boring, but he doesn't show his feelings. We return to the lieutenant who saw the waves earlier. Feeling anxious, she calls her family to warn them, telling them to hide in a safe underground place because something dangerous will happen the next day when the sun rises. After ending the call, 2 policemen arrive to arrest her. She tricks them, gets into her car, and escapes. The scene shifts to the expedition site and the start of the project. We meet the rest of the team, including a man named Felix, Armin's best friend Benson, and a college student named Rana. The team boards the ship to begin their journey to the dive site. Upon arrival, Freddie bids farewell to Victoria. The 5 members, Armin, Victoria, Felix, Benson, and Rana, board the submarine. Before they dive, the ship's captain informs Victoria of strange occurrences in East Asia, especially at sunrise. However, the team dismisses it, believing it won't affect them. Everything goes smoothly, and the team remains underwater for 12 hours. Armin notices an unusual brightness and tells the team they are in a luminous area of the ocean. Even though sunlight shouldn't reach this depth, they resurface the submarine, signaling the end of the mission. When they try to contact the crew on the ship, there is no response. Armin calls out loudly, but to no avail. He asks Felix to move the submarine closer to the ship. Armin and Victoria board the ship, only to find it empty with no sign of Freddie or anyone else. They suspect they were abandoned in the middle of the ocean. In the control room, they find a video of Freddie explaining what happened. He reveals that the sun's rays are killing people on Earth. He says everyone in Asia has died, and with every passing second, more people are dying. Freddie and the others decide to go to an underground shelter on a nearby island, safe from the sun's rays. Armin and Victoria quickly return to the submarine, explain the situation to the team, and decide to head to the island shelter. Upon arrival, they see another submarine surfacing nearby. Armin's team is puzzled about who these people are. Armin realizes it's impossible for anyone to be alive due to the sun's waves. The new group claims they are survivors heading to the underground shelter. They all unite and head to the shelter. Victoria receives a message from Freddie, who is running toward the shelter, surrounded by people hugging and saying their final goodbyes, accepting their fate. The police divide into groups to search for survivors in the city. Armin, Victoria, and a police officer head to the shelter. They find a city filled with corpses of people who died in horrifying ways, with visible internal burns. In a church, they find more dead bodies, some embracing and others praying. Victoria begins to lose hope of finding her fiancé. A soldier informs the officer that a man is alive inside a bank vault. The man had locked himself in the vault and was in severe pain, his body overheating. Armin tries to get information about the shelter from the man, but he speaks incoherently. The officer ends his suffering by shooting him out of mercy. The officer orders the team to return to the submarine within 30 minutes. However, Armin refuses to leave until they find Freddie. Victoria rewatches Freddie's. She and Armin head there in a car. Meanwhile, a group of soldiers tries to steal money from the vault. The vault door accidentally locks, trapping them inside. Another soldier tries to open the door, but no one knows the code, leaving them all imprisoned. Armin returns to the submarine, leaving the others behind. When the second officer learns what happened, he begins to resent Armin and his team. Rana gets internet access on her phone and researches the catastrophe. She finds an article explaining that the sun's magnetic field changes every 11 years. Recent significant changes have caused the sun to emit massive amounts of energy. It's enough to kill all humans and any living creature. Also, there was a lot of talk that Rana didn't understand, and there were spelling mistakes, which means the person who wrote this article was in a hurry and not focused on what was happening. After a while, Armin and Victoria arrived at the place where Freddy was hiding. But unfortunately, when they went inside, the thick walls couldn't withstand, nor could they protect people's lives from the deadly rays. There were many dead people lying on the ground. Victoria was in shock and fear until she saw Freddy's corpse in front of her and broke down crying. Then she found his phone next to him, opened it, and saw a recorded video where he said to her, "I'm happy because the sun has been up for 5 minutes and none of us got hurt." But then she heard screams in great pain, realizing the sun had reached them and was burning their bodies. Armin tried to stop the phone, but even the sunlight that entered affected the phone's function. So Armin broke the phone to stop her from hearing Freddy's screams. After that, they had to leave. Victoria was devastated and couldn't believe what had happened to her. Then they got in the car and headed back to the submarine. As soon as they arrived, the submarine was ready to dive into the depths. They locked themselves inside. The officer didn't want to let Armin and Victoria board, but the commander told him to open the door and let them in. At this point, the 3 team members realized that the commander was the only one on their side. Even the other soldiers present hated Armin and his group. The soldiers respected the rest of Armin's team, but they were asked to clean the bathrooms and stay out of sight. After a while, they discovered issues with the submarine but couldn't figure out the cause. The submarine's engineer was among those trapped in the bank, so no one understood the problem or knew how to solve it. They were forced to seek Armin's help since he was an engineer and could solve the problem. Indeed, he managed to fix it. The commander was pleased with him and made him the new engineer. The officer wasn't happy with the commander's decision, but he couldn't oppose it. Later, we see team members cleaning the officer's quarters, joking among themselves to lighten the mood. But then Altan came and hit them, unable to tolerate them. He insulted and mocked them. When Benson tried to defend himself, Altan hit him hard. Victoria went to the commander and told him this couldn't continue. The soldiers were treating them like murderers. He replied, "I will protect you until you leave here." At night, Altan was drinking alcohol with his friends. At that moment, he noticed some canned food was missing. Drunk, he said, "It must be Victoria who did it." Olivia, the operations officer, came and told him to stop. We learn that Olivia is the commander's daughter, so her word is final. She said she couldn't stay silent about what was happening. Altan then woke all the soldiers and said, "We will rebel against Armin and his group." He went to the commander and demanded they all be thrown out of the submarine, claiming it was the majority's request. The commander told him to stop causing trouble, reminded him he was speaking while drunk, which was a problem in itself, and pointed out that soldiers weren't allowed to take canned food to their rooms. "So you're the one causing problems and accusing others, Altan." Armin tried to calm things down, saying there was no need for all this trouble. "We don't want to cause any issues. On the contrary, we all need each other to survive this disaster." He added that they might be the only humans left on the planet. The officer began to change his opinion about Armin and his group. Eventually, they all started trusting each other. Felix, who was in the officer's quarters and unaware of what had transpired between Armin and the commander, saw a soldier handling a bomb recklessly. He immediately reported the soldier to the officers and the commander. The commander confronted the soldier, who was holding the bomb, staring at it, and laughing. He said he had lost his entire family and had nothing left to live for, so he wanted to end his life. He added that it would be better for everyone on the submarine to die and start a new life with their families in heaven. The commander tried to calm him down, but it was futile. The commander entered the room and locked the door behind him, sacrificing himself to save the others. The soldier detonated the bomb, and the explosion caused damage to the submarine. They tried to repair it, but everything could be fixed except for one hole in the control room. Armin tried to seal the hole, but all his attempts failed. The only solution was to seal it from outside the submarine. Olivia volunteered to do it. She was still emotionally shaken, especially after her father's death. Armin and Olivia went outside the submarine to fix the problem. Armin tried to work on the hole, while Olivia held a flashlight to illuminate the area. A large fish attacked them, causing her necklace, a final gift from her father, to fall. She tried to find it after the fish left, but it was dark, and Armin couldn't locate it. After some searching, they managed to find each other but couldn't find their way back to the submarine. Luckily, the submarine's lights came back on, guiding them back. Before entering the submarine, Armin told her to forget what happened, as they didn't need more problems. When they returned, everyone on the submarine was relieved and happy they had made it back safely. The problem was resolved, and the water level inside the submarine decreased. The next day, they reached a military base to gather more supplies and learn more about what had happened to the sun. Meanwhile, Benson, who wasn't assigned any tasks, decided to take a walk to see what had happened to the world. When he climbed to the surface and looked at the city, he saw fire and destruction everywhere. He was emotionally devastated, knowing his entire family had died. He lost all motivation and didn't want to live anymore. The military base and its members discovered that all their friends had perished. They saw that their friends were looking for a plan to try to escape before the disaster happened. They held a military funeral for them. After that, they were trying to look for anything that could help them. Armin and Olivia were searching for food or anything, but they discovered that everything had lost its taste because of the sun and what had happened. It was as if the sun had absorbed all the nutrients from the food. But after a while, they heard a strange commotion and tried to figure out exactly what was going on. Elsewhere, she and Benson were looking for medicine and vitamins at the Military Medical Care Center. In the submarine, Felix was with Armin, talking about his life and what happened before everything. And he spoke to Armin about a silver flashlight he had lost in the submarine. When Felix entered his room, there was someone inside who attacked him and ran away. It was supposed to be just Armin and Felix there at that time, and their task was to take care of the submarine, the rooms, and the things inside. So they decided to chase after that man and find out who he was. After that, the soldiers gathered with them to surround the stranger and figure out exactly who he was. This is where the first part ends.